Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into how AI is being used to fight climate change.
Yeah, it's a hot topic right now. Lots of interesting applications.
Definitely. We're going to be looking at an article from the World Economic Forum called 9 Ways AI is Helping Fight Climate Change. And honestly, some of these things I had no idea about before reading this.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Okay, so the article starts with this idea of tracking melting icebergs. Obviously, that's a huge indicator of climate change, right?
Right, and it's something scientists have been doing for a while, trying to keep track of. But with AI, they can analyze these massive icebergs in like a fraction of a second, which is crazy.
Yeah, I read about that. Researchers at the University of Leeds, right?
Exactly. They're able to map these icebergs 10,000 times faster than humans can.
Wow, 10,000 times.
Yeah.
So I guess what makes that so important? Is it about speed or there's something else going on?
It's definitely about speed because it allows scientists to look at huge amounts of data really quickly and accurately. And it gives them a much better understanding of how these icebergs are melting and how that's affecting the oceans.
Got it. So it's not just about seeing where they are, it's about understanding how they're changing and what that means for the bigger picture.
Exactly.
Okay, that's fascinating. So moving on, the article also talks about deforestation, another huge contributor to climate change. How is AI being used there?
Well, there's this company called Space Intelligence. They use AI and satellite data to map deforestation, and they've already mapped over 1 million hectares of land.
1 million. Geez, how much land is that exactly? Like, give me a sense of scale.
Think of it like it's roughly the size of Yellowstone National Park.
Okay, wow. So that's a lot of land they're keeping an eye on.
Okay.
And I guess the idea is that by mapping it, they can then do something about it, right?
Right. It helps them identify the areas that need the most attention and track how well conservation efforts are working.
Okay, that makes sense. So from the ice to the forests, we're seeing AI being used in all sorts of ways. The article then goes on to talk about ocean plastic, which is honestly kind of depressing.
Yeah, it's a huge problem. But AI is actually being used to help clean that up too.
Really? How does that even work?
Well, there's an organization called the Ocean Cleanup, and they're using AI to identify and map those giant garbage patches in the ocean.
So instead of just, randomly searching for plastic, they can target their efforts more effectively.
Exactly. They can see where the highest concentrations of plastic are and focus their cleanup efforts there.
Wow, that's amazing. It's like AI is being used as a cleanup crew for the planet.
Kind of, yeah. And speaking of cleaning up, the article also talks about reforestation efforts in Rio de Janeiro. They're using AI-powered drones to plant trees.
Drones planting trees. That's awesome. How does that work?
So these drones have AI systems that help them navigate and plant seeds in hard-to-reach areas. They can plant seeds like 100 times faster than humans can.
100 times. Wow. So it's not just about mapping and monitoring. AI is actually taking action to restore the environment.
Exactly. It's pretty incredible to see how versatile this technology is.
It really is. This is all making me think, are these just like isolated projects, or is there a bigger movement to use AI for climate solutions?
Oh, there's definitely a movement. The article mentions Google DeepMind. They're partnering with climate change AI to create a giant database of like all this climate-related information that can be used to develop new AI solutions.
So it's about making the data available so that other people can create their own solutions, kind of like a toolbox.
Exactly. It's all about making it easier to develop and use these tools to fight climate change.
That's awesome. Okay, one more thing I wanted to touch on before we move to the next part. The article also mentions a company called Eugenie.ai, which is working on emissions tracking. What do they do exactly?
So they created this platform that uses AI to track and reduce emissions, especially in industries that are known for having high emissions, like oil and gas and mining.
Okay, so we're not just talking about planting trees, we're talking about changing how entire industries operate.
Exactly, and it's actually working. Companies using their platform have seen emission reductions of 20 to 30%.
Wow, that's impressive. So it seems like AI can actually help us transition to a more sustainable economy. This is all pretty mind-blowing stuff.
It really is, and we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah, it feels like AI is giving us this incredible opportunity to tackle climate change in ways we never thought possible. Just to recap quickly before we move on, we've seen how AI is being used to track melting icebergs, map deforestation, clean up plastic from the ocean, and even plant trees.
And don't forget about optimizing entire industries to reduce their emissions. That's a huge one.
Absolutely. It's amazing to see how versatile this technology is. But I'm curious, are there other areas where AI is being applied in this fight? This feels like just the tip of the iceberg.
You're absolutely right. There's so much more to explore, and that's what we'll be diving into in the next part.
Yeah, there really is. For example, think about the energy sector. AI could revolutionize how we manage renewable energy sources, like solar and wind power.
Oh yeah, how so?
Well, imagine AI algorithms being used to optimize those smart grids, make them run more efficiently.
Smart grids, right. Just to back up for a sec, can you explain what those are exactly, for people who might not be familiar?
Sure. Smart grids basically use digital technology to manage the flow of electricity.
Yeah.
They make the whole system more efficient and reliable. And AI could take that to a whole new level.
By doing what?
Well, by constantly analyzing data and adjusting the flow of energy from things like solar panels and wind turbines to match the actual demand. So basically making sure that renewable energy is always available when we need it.
That would be huge. Because one of the big criticisms of renewable energy is that it's not always reliable, right? The sun's not always shining, the wind's not always blowing.
Exactly. AI could really help overcome that challenge. Okay, that makes sense. So AI is making renewable energy more efficient. Anything else?
It could also help us use less energy in the first place. Think about smart homes and buildings that can learn our habits and adjust things like lighting and temperature automatically.
Oh, like turning off the lights when you leave a room or adjusting the thermostat when you're away.
Exactly. And you can even take it a step further, where these smart buildings can communicate with each other and create like a whole network that optimizes energy use for an entire neighborhood.
Wow. So AI is not only changing how we produce energy, but also how we consume it. Pretty impressive.
It is. And there are other sectors too where AI can have a big impact. Take agriculture, for example.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
Oh.
How is AI being used there?
Well, AI can analyze things like soil conditions, weather patterns, and even the health of crops.
And that helps with what exactly?
All sorts of things, like optimizing irrigation, knowing when and how much to water, or figuring out the best ways to fertilize crops, or even control pests.
Okay, so basically making farming more efficient and sustainable.
Exactly. We need to find ways to grow more food with less resources, especially with the population growing all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of sustainability, what about transportation? I mean, that's a huge source of emissions.
Yeah, and AI is already playing a role there too. We're seeing it with self-driving vehicles, which have the potential to be way more fuel efficient than human drivers.
Right, because they can optimize things like speed and braking, avoid traffic jams.
Exactly. But it's not just about self-driving cars. AI can be used to optimize all sorts of transportation systems. Like imagine AI managing traffic flow in cities, reducing congestion, or helping to design more efficient public transportation systems.
That would be amazing. Less traffic, less pollution, less stress. Sign me up.
Right. And there are even more applications too, like using AI to develop new materials for carbon capture, protecting endangered species, even predicting wildfires.
It really feels like AI is becoming this essential tool for understanding and addressing climate change.
It is. But it's important to remember that AI is not some magic solution that will fix everything on its own. It still requires a lot of human effort and collaboration.
Okay, so what else do we need to consider as we move forward with all this?
Well, for one thing, we need to make sure that these AI systems are developed and used ethically.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning that they're fair, transparent, and accountable. We don't want to create solutions that accidentally make existing inequalities worse or create new ones.
Right. Technology should benefit everyone, not just a select few.
Exactly. And even though AI can give us powerful tools, it's not a substitute for human action and political will. We still need strong policies and individual efforts to really address climate change.
I think that's a really important point. It's easy to get caught up in the technology and forget that we all have a role to play. So, with all that being said, what's the main message you want people to take away from this conversation so far?
I think the main message is hope. We have the tools and the knowledge to make a real difference in the fight against climate change. AI is giving us a fighting chance, but it's up to all of us to use it wisely.
I like that. It's not about giving up. It's about embracing these new opportunities and working together to create a better future. This has been a really inspiring conversation, but I know there's still more to explore. As we head into the final part of our deep dive, what final thought would you leave our listeners with?
Well, I think the big question now is what can everyday people actually do to be part of this? How can they help shape this future where AI is being used to fight climate change?
Yeah, that's a good question. It can feel a little overwhelming. Like, what can one person really do?
Right. But the good news is you don't have to be like a tech expert or a politician to make a difference.
So what are some practical steps that people can take?
Well, first off, just stay informed. Follow the developments in AI and climate change. There's tons of resources out there, like websites, podcasts even, newsletters that break down these complex topics in a way that's easy to understand.
Yeah, the more you know, the better equipped you are to advocate for change.
Exactly. And speaking of advocating, don't underestimate the power of your voice. Support organizations working on these issues. Contact your elected officials. Let them know this is important to you.
It's easy to forget that those things actually do make a difference.
They really do. And then, of course, there's also the personal level. Think about your own consumption habits. Can you reduce your carbon footprint? Can you support companies that are committed to sustainability and ethical AI?
Right, so it's about aligning your actions with your values, making conscious choices that support a more sustainable future.
Exactly. And if you're in a position to do so, you could also consider investing in startups or businesses that are developing these AI-powered solutions for climate change.
Yeah, put your money where your mouth is.
Exactly. And lastly, I would just say, don't be afraid to think outside the box. Maybe you have a skill or an idea that could contribute to this space. Get creative. See how you can get involved.
That's a great point. This whole deep dive has been really eye-opening. We've seen how AI is being used in so many different ways to tackle this massive challenge, from tracking melting icebergs to making entire industries more sustainable. It's pretty incredible.
It is, and it just shows the potential that AI has to make a real difference.
But I think it's also a good reminder that technology is only part of the solution.
Absolutely. It's about people making conscious choices, taking action, working together.
Couldn't agree more. Well, this has been a fascinating conversation. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into AI and climate change. We hope you learned something new and feel inspired to take action. Remember, even small steps can make a big difference when we all work together.